Hey everyone, Jason Sherman here. In today's episode of Zero to CEO, I have with me a successful entrepreneur and co-founder CEO, Billy Price. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Jason. I really appreciate it.
No problem. And in today's episode, we're going to cover how to make a difference 1 foot at a time, pun intended, with Billy Price. And I guess you make difference 1 foot at a time because I see in the background, for our watchers, not listeners, Billy has a bunch of shoe racks in the background. So tell me a little bit about what I'm looking at. I see a variety of shoes. I see a Billy Goat logo. How do you make a difference 1 foot at a time?
Well, there's a lot going on behind me right here. So we're a shoe company based out of Seattle. We started a number of years ago, and it started as a side hustle between me and my buddy, and it turned into our main hustle. And our slogan is trying to make a measurable difference in the world 1 foot at a time. So that's kind of our stick.
How do you do that with a shoe company? I know that there's a sock company. I forget what they're called, but for every sock sold, they donate one to an unfortunate person in another part of the world. How do you do that with shoes?
Well, the big thing with us is the way our design is set up. There's a wraparound zipper, which allows the whole upper of the shoe to fold over, so you actually drop your foot in unobstructed. And the premise behind that it came from my own story. I'm a wheelchair user. I broke my neck a number of years ago, and I couldn't put my shoes on anymore. I just lost that ability dexterity-wise. So we came up with a design that really helped someone like myself to be able to put their shoes on again. But the main premise was not to make something specifically for a niche audience. It was to be able to create something that really embodied universal design that everybody could use. But the main difference point was being able to empower that independence.
Right. So you found a pain point because of your injury, and you solved the problem that you had in a unique way. So what were some of I want to hear I'm more of a nuts and bolts kind of guy. So take me through the problem solving that you went through. What were the iterations that, like, for example, anyone out there listening or watching this right now who has a product idea, and take them through the process of concept on a paper napkin to prototyping to, manufacturing to selling. How did you figure all of that out?
Yep. Well, you're nailing it right on the head there. So it started with an idea, and then it takes action. So from there, we made a drawing, and my fellow co-founder, Darin, he already had some background on how to actually produce a shoe. So he went and took a class. Through that class, he was able to get some contacts on finding an agent that could get you connected with the factory. And we had our drawing, and we called out our materials, and then we sent it to that agency. Let's
pause for a second here, because you're going through a lot of steps all at once. I kind of like digging into each of them.
Okay.
You mentioned you have a drawing. So where did the drawing come from? Who drew it? How did you come up with the design? Did you have multiple different drawings that you showed to people and said, pick the one you like the most? Did you have someone that have drawing skills? Like, these are people that are watching. They might not have these skills. They might not know where to go to get those skills. So take me through the process of actually coming up with the design.
Sure, no problem. So, drawings can be incredibly, incredibly detailed, or they can be just like more conceptual. So the drawing that Darin put together, it was very much conceptual. He put it together using Adobe Illustrator. So it had, there weren't any dimensions attached to it. It was essentially just
a 2D drawing.
Very much so. Yeah, very much so. And then, but there was a 3D kind of rendering, which had it kind of shown in more of like a 45-degree profile, cool. Just so it kind of gave some depth. Okay. But it was a very rudimentary drawing. There wasn't a whole lot to it.
Okay.
And then when
the zipper mechanic, was that part of the drawing too?
It was part of but it didn't have the mechanics of the zipper itself. It just had kind of the path of where the zipper could go. Okay. And then what you do is you call out the type of material you're going to use. So we called out suede. We called out, a zipper that you put in a jacket. That was kind of our starting point. And just to kind of throw that out there as a rudimentary prototype. So we sent illustrations of something you'd seen in magazines saying like, well, this type of shoe from this particular brand.
So gathering examples.
Exactly. And we just kind of really just, leaned on the factory itself, knowing that they've been in the shoe business, knowing they know how to make a shoe. They would be able to take like kind of these random parts and then to be able to make a prototype.
So here's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that you Frankenstein the hell out of this by drawing a concept, coming up with a mechanic, showing examples to a company or factory that has already been doing it for years, gathering all of this data, drawings and examples, and coming up with some sort of concept that they then presented to you? Is that kind of what?
Yes, sir. That's exactly what happened. So
Cool.
they took those parts to kind of put it together. They sent us back a drawing that looked way better than ours. And
Of course.
and we said yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
So
and,
they
and
handed the product to you on a silver platter. I love it. That's great.
well, yeah,
So
they gave us a drawing and then we said yes. And then they actually made the shoe and then they sent it to us. And lo and behold, we put our hand on it and it looked like a real shoe. It looked like the
so
type
they
of shoe
actually
you sell.
manufactured a prototype of this for you,
Indeed.
and
Yes.
you tried it on, and it worked exactly how you expected it to work. There were no issues.
There were no issues.
Whoa,
I know. See, that's the thing. Like that
that's
doesn't typically
impossible.
happen. Yeah, we went very simple, like all black suede. So there wasn't a whole lot of air possible when it comes to the material, but
Right.
the actual execution was beautiful. And when Darin presented to me, I put my shoes on. And in that moment, I was 36 years old. I broke my neck when I was 18. And so literally half a lifetime later, I was taking
Wow.
back that independence. And it was so special. We knew we had to share it. So
I can't even
then
imagine
becomes
the
the
feeling
grind
you
of starting
got.
the business.
I
Yeah.
can't. I want to go back to the feeling you got, because everybody has like the aha moment when they're an entrepreneur, right? And that was, you just mentioned yours. You said half a lifetime later. What was the feeling like when you first put on the shoes on your own with no help? What was the first thing that went through your mind?
Well, there was two things. One was, why on earth did it take us 18 years to do this?
Oh,
That was one. But secondly, like, oh my gosh, wow. That was the last piece of the puzzle in my world of which I couldn't do independently. And all of a sudden that was checked off. And it just became just the grounding, driving force for us to then do the next crazy leap, which would be jump into the world and try to launch a product. I mean, that's
so
where the really grind came from.
so Billy Footwear was born, and in that moment, I guess you used a Billy Goat because they're hard headed and they're stubborn and they want to push through and they want to get to people's eyeballs, I'm guessing. So it's really a matter of that determination. And so you had to manufacture these. Did the same factory then give you a certain amount of the shoes for you to kind of test run in a variety of sizes, and you started selling them online? Is that what you did at first, or trade shows? What did you do?
So that factory wanted our business, but we ended up getting connected with somebody else that had what seemed like an avenue to a much better product, an even better product with better pricing. And we took the leap of faith and moved forward with them, and it backfired. It backfired big time. We
Oh,
manufactured 4,200 pairs of shoes, and of those 4,200 pairs, 80% of them were blemished. They were bad. We couldn't even
oh
sell them.
no. Did they at least offer you a refund, or?
No, no way. I mean, like when you start working overseas like that,
Oh, it was
uh,
overseas.
yeah,
So,
it
so
doesn't
the
work that way.
company you were with originally was in America?
So yeah, well, originally the factory we went to, that was also over in China. We were
Okay.
working with an agent here in the States, and but we didn't really, we were stepping into this big stage. We didn't really know what we were doing. Really, we were taking it one day at a time.
What made you switch? I'm really curious on this, because it sounds like you had found a winner when it comes to the manufacturer, because they sent you a product that you liked, and I understand it sounded like the pricing might not have been what you wanted, but what made you switch if you had such a great partnership in the beginning?
Well, before it was us going directly to a factory, working directly with like some agent. The reason we shifted is because we got connected with the designer. The designer had been in the shoe business for a long, long time, and they had contacts with the factory overseas. So they sold us a line, really, and we took a hook, line, and sinker, and it ended up being, unfortunately, not a very good relationship, and it really led to an epic, right out of the gate disaster. And
Oh,
it was financially devastating because I mean, we
4,000
couldn't.
pairs of shoes. I mean, and that inventory is not, it's not like a small little widget. It's a large box with shoes in it. And where are you going to, what did you do with those shoes? Did
Well,
you,
in terms of storing, we stored them in our first warehouse, which doubled as my parents' basement. And
so
then
your parents' basement were full of 4,000 shoes? Oh my
exactly,
God. I can't even
exactly.
imagine. Did you
So
donate them to people that needed them? Is that what you ended up doing?
essentially, that's what we eventually did. But the big thing was, from that failure, it made us realize that we couldn't go to that factory. We couldn't use that designer anymore. And it forced us to really kind of get out of our comfort zone and go out and find people that really knew what they were doing in the industry.
Right.
And so from that failure, we another person joined our team who was a shoe dog in the industry for many, many, many years. And when I say shoe dog, that means he's the guy that was on the ground floor, like actually fitting people for feet. Worked for Nordstrom, had lots of contacts with Zappos, and through those connections, we ended up getting connected with another sourcing partner. And a sourcing partner is a guy like more like the agency that we were talking about earlier. Right. They would be the connection with us for us to a factory overseas. And we went into their store, into their office, and told our story of like where we'd come, the idea, the vision, our mission, the idea, the design, the concept. And they could have said no, but instead they said yes.
Isn't that great when someone finally says yes after a million no's? And
totally.
It sounds like you went through a lot of struggles and you learned a lot from your mistakes. And every entrepreneur goes through this, right? Every entrepreneur has to learn from their mistakes. But once you do, you're able to then thrive. You're able to then do what your mission said it was going to do. And take me through the process of now you have Billy, it's established, you have the designer, you have the shoes correctly. How did you start selling them?
So because now we had a quality product, it was a matter of the gentleman that joined our team that kind of got us connected with that sourcing partner. He also had connections with Nordstrom, Zappos, some other major retailers. His name is Patrick Foster, and he was able to set up meetings that we could go in and actually meet with the buyers of these stores. And it wasn't we got into those stores because of Patrick. It was more Patrick was able to open the door for us to be able to make the introduction. We still had to do the work,
of course,
but being able to tell the story and show the vision and really just dedicate ourselves to make sure that the shoes would sell.
And how's it been going with the sales?
It's been going amazing. It's going amazing. So we hit the shelves of Nordstrom and Zappos in 2017 just for back to school.
Okay.
And given that success, and that was just with kids' shoes. Given that success, we were able to expand into toddlers, able to expand into men's and women's, and then start going wider. And now we're in stores across the U.S.
Wow.
We're in Canada. We're in
Congrats,
Europe,
man.
Target.
Wow, Billy's everywhere. Mm-hmm. Next time I go to Target, I'm going to check you guys out. Have you partnered with any foundations, nonprofits, charities, anyone that is helping the inclusivity of people with injuries?
There are a lot of nonprofits that reach out to us, and they're also just really, really beautiful collaborations. Because a lot of these nonprofits are using, they'll have an audience that needs a functional shoe, but they don't want to compromise on the fashion. They want both fashion and function.
Of course.
So they're having success with the product, which is great. And then we can work with them to allow them to buy shoes at the discount, and then plus have a mechanism where there's a donation going back to the nonprofit. So
that's great.
Not only are they using the product and succeeding with the product, but also we are a platform that they can tell their story and help get the word out of what they're trying to achieve.
It's a worthy cause. Have you found any indirect niche target audiences that popped up out of nowhere that you never thought would have happened that needed this kind of shoe?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. One of the first audiences that reached out to us was a mom asking the question, do these shoes work with an AFO? And I had to go to Google to do a search of what an AFO was. I had no idea what that was.
Me neither.
And what it stands for is ankle foot orthosis, which is kind of a plastic brace that one needs when they're working through their gait.
Interesting.
And the challenge with that plastic brace is being rigid. It's very challenging to shove your foot into a shoe. So given the functionality of our shoe, having it open up, it drops in unobstructed. So when the mom asked that, I saw the picture. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're struggling with the same challenge I have. Like,
that's great.
That'll work great.
Gotta love when stuff like that happens. Well, Billy, this was fantastic. I'd love to have you tell people where they can find your shoes, if they can, donate to your cause, if you have one, or any other information about what you guys do and how to find you.
Great. Well, our mothership is billyfootwear.com. So on billyfootwear.com, there is a tab that says store locations. If you click on that, you can see lots and lots of retail partners that we have throughout the US, Canada, Europe, Australia, all that. But billyfootwear.com, that is an e-commerce site, so you can buy from us direct without trouble. When it comes to social, our social handle is at Billy Footwear. And your other question about collaborations and all these nonprofits, on our website, billyfootwear.com, there is a tab that says association partners, and you can see all the nonprofits that we collaborate with.
Perfect. You nailed the name, man. billyfootwear.com. Everyone check it out. Get a pair of shoes. And Billy, thanks again. Appreciate it. Hope you guys learned something from his journey and his story. And as always, we'll see you guys in the next episode.